this humanitarian crisis. But we cannot bear the cost of reckless political ploys from the state of Texas alone. Today, our administration filed a lawsuit against 17 companies that have taken part in Texas Governor Greg Abbott's scheme to transport tens of thousands of migrants to New York City in an attempt to overwhelm our social services system. These companies have violated state law by not paying the cost of caring for these migrants. And that's why we are suing to recoup approximately $700 million already spent to care for migrants bused here in the last 2 years by the state of Texas. Governor Abbott's continuing use of migrants as political pawns is not only chaotic and inhumane, but makes clear he puts politics over people. Today's lawsuit should serve as a warning to all those who break the law.
So the state of New York and the city of New York have decided to sue the state of Texas. Also, the DOJ is suing Texas. However, there was another city in the United States who decided to sue Texas earlier this year, and it didn't exactly go the way they thought it was going to go. Now, guys, you obviously saw that 40-second clip or whatever that Eric Adams was saying. And don't worry, there's another little 40-second clip that's going to be played, then played by a 3-minute news segment, then played by the past clip. But I'm here to tell you what the hell this right here really and truly is. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video.
Hochul joining Mayor Adams in slamming Texas Governor Greg Abbott for busing tens of thousands of asylum seekers to New York City. The governor supports the mayor's lawsuit against 17 bus companies used by Abbott to transport more than 33,000 migrants here, including his current plan of dropping them off at New Jersey train stations.
This is a new dynamic where he is actually doing something, creating a chaotic situation that now merits a strong response. And that's why the lawsuit's being brought now.
The lawsuit seeks more than $700 million from the bus companies to compensate the city for the cost of feeding and sheltering the migrants.
Really quick, I need to say this. It's not just the state of Texas that they're trying to sue. It's also these bus companies, but don't worry, that will be explained in this video as well. Before we get started, I need to go ahead and say this right now. At the very end of the video, there's going to be a couple of updates on exactly how the week is going to go, because there are a few videos that are going to be strictly on the media itself coming out. One, of course, coming out today, and of course, a couple coming out tomorrow. But the thing is this right here. Our media, of course, shapes a lot of public opinion in this nation. And that's kind of the direction that we're going into, exposing exactly who these people are, the propaganda, everything. But, of course, immigration has got something to do with it as well. So let's take a look at this. So Eric Adams, mayor of New York City, he ran on basically being the good old-fashioned moderate Democrat. Okay, that's what he ran on. Typically, moderate Democrats would be somewhat hawkish. I wouldn't say hawkish, but somewhat stricter than the average liberal on the topic of immigration. They typically want to keep immigration down. They don't want to build a wall or anything because it kind of hurts their messaging as liberals. Where conservatives, of course, typically tend to be a little bit more hawkish on immigration. However, Bill Clinton in the mid-90s, he wanted border security, and then he turned right back around and claimed that Texas Republicans did not want the border wall. Of course, this immigration football has been kicked around on both sides. George W. Bush was president 2001 to 2008, governor of Texas, and of course he was somewhat lenient on this topic. As a matter of fact, George W. Bush actually speaks fluent Spanish. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, Texas is a border state, New Mexico is a border state, Arizona is a border state, and California. So therefore, you would obviously expect a much, much higher Hispanic population in those states, due to all the years of people crossing over, and of course, due to years of people actually living in those areas, especially with their ancestry going all the way back pre the Mexican War. Now, I haven't really spoken about this in my videos on immigration, but I'm bringing it up for a reason. Over time, of course, liberals, in order to gain power, they have obviously leaned into getting the more Hispanic vote. Of course, they tried this with Cubans in South Florida. They tried this with people who come from Puerto Rico, people from Central America as a whole, and eventually also Mexicans as well. By the way, I don't say that as an insult, but over time, of course, Hispanics have started to see that they're probably being used, they're pawns and whatnot. But don't worry, we'll cover that in another video this week, because we do got to ask the question, is the current regime losing young voters? By the way, these same young voters, a good portion of them, wanted the Hispanics to come over. At the same exact time, black people who live in the very, very large cities who traditionally vote Democrat continue to vote regardless, not realizing that people were in fact being brought in to, how do I say this, replace them. So here's the thing. People in the city of New York have obviously gotten tired of the immigration situation. And of course, people in Chicago have gotten tired of this entire immigration situation as well. So when I see a news report like this here, this response out of Eric Adams does not surprise me.
Charter bus companies that are driving migrants into New York City.
It's a big problem. Now, this newly filed lawsuit, the city is seeking hundreds of millions of dollars from at least 17 bus companies. We want to go now to Lizette Nunez, who's been taking a look at this lawsuit with what we should know. Good morning, Lizette.
Good morning, Dan and Tashani. Well, the Adams administration is accusing the bus companies of carrying out Texas Governor Abbott's plan and moving migrants across the country. So far to date, the city has spent more than $3 billion on the migrant crisis, and Mayor Adams believes the company should foot part of that bill.
Our administration filed a lawsuit against 17 companies that have taken part in Texas Governor Greg Abbott's scheme to transport tens of thousands of migrants to New York City.
The Adams administration taking legal action against the companies that have been dropping off migrants in the Big Apple since spring of 2022. The city is seeking $708 million in damages that have gone towards housing and feeding asylum seekers.
Governor Abbott's continuing use of migrants as political pawns is not only chaotic and inhumane, but makes clear he puts politics over people.
The 14-page lawsuit accuses the bus companies of violating New York's social services law by acting in bad faith and moving individuals who are in need of care while profiting from the crisis. Governor Abbott says migrants that have been flown or bused to New York City did so voluntarily, writing in part, "This lawsuit is baseless and deserves to be sanctioned. It's clear that Mayor Adams knows nothing about the Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution or about the constitutional right to travel that has been recognized by the U.S. Supreme Court." This comes as just last week, Adams issued an executive order that sets limits on migrant arrivals, including requiring bus companies to issue a 32-hour notice before dropping off migrants in New York City. The executive order has largely been ignored. Bus companies instead have been dropping off migrants in New Jersey. New Jersey state police have reportedly been guiding migrants onto trains to the city. Governor Murphy was asked why they were being directed to New York City.
New York City is where the federal resources are located and directed for these migrants, and that is a fact.
Governor Kathy Hochul says she supports New York City taking action against bus companies. She's also planning a trip to D.C. to speak with the White House about the impact of the migrant crisis. Hochul says she's also in touch with Governor Phil Murphy and is encouraging neighboring counties to pass similar executive orders like New York City did that places limits on migrant arrivals.
Those bus companies, like suing those bus companies is really going to help. Basically, we're going to be suing the state of Texas for damages and all that type of stuff. We want them to pay for all the immigration that came over. But as Greg Abbott pointed out, there's nothing in the Commerce Clause of the Constitution that says that the state of Texas will have to pay for this. As a matter of fact, there's another very liberal city in the United States that did try to sue Texas already over this.
Hi there, Glenn and Lou. Well, LA City Council leaders, they filed two separate motions yesterday and both passed unanimously. And they're pushing for legal action, not just against Texas, but also its Governor Greg Abbott. Again, voting yesterday and those motions passing overwhelmingly. And this involves Abbott's sending busloads of migrants to Los Angeles. Additionally, council leaders, they want to launch a probe into whether Abbott's actions may have violated any criminal laws, more specifically kidnapping, human trafficking, or possibly other alleged violations, with many families transported to Los Angeles on lengthy bus rides with little or no food and water, according to some council leaders. On Wednesday, another bus carrying migrants arrived at Union Station. The nonprofit organization CHIRLA, Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, LA, confirmed that there were 35 asylum seekers from places like Guatemala, Honduras, and also Peru.
Once again, we're talking about the buses, which of course this is not going to help these people out because the buses are not exactly bringing in the revenue, but also something else too about the buses. They're just the vehicle that's being used, sponsored by the federal government, and some of these, of course, are nonprofits. So exactly what do you hope to gain out of this? My guess, you're not going to gain jack crap. That right there was about 4 or 5 months ago, but Los Angeles already tried this. And I'm pretty sure that there are going to be more lawsuits to come to the state of Texas over this issue. But the fact of the matter is that these liberal woke mayors like Brandon Johnson, even Lori Lightfoot before that, Eric Adams, and of course is now Karen Bass. She's now the mayor of Los Angeles. These mayors wanted this problem. They said that their cities were sanctuary cities and that the illegals were welcome. So Greg Abbott just simply said, okay, well, where do you guys want to go? And of course, he sent them there. Of course, the Biden administration also allowed it, but now the DOJ is wanting to sue the state of Texas as well. This court case will probably not go very far, and the immigration situation will probably continue to get a lot worse. Now, as far as damages are concerned, what are damages exactly? This right here, in my opinion, is nothing more than an attempt at getting some form of welfare. That's exactly what this is, and it reeks of desperation. You see, the city of New York and the state of New York, they have played the immigration card so hard that people in the state, a predominantly blue state, have gotten tired of this, and they're starting to shift their focus to maybe potentially voting third party in 2024, or possibly even voting for that orange guy that they claim they hate so much. Yes, it's very, very much a possibility. I don't think Donald Trump will win that state, so don't think I'm talking about that there. But it'd definitely be a lot more competitive this time around, especially with RFK and Jill Stein and Cornel West and no labels, which I don't think will go very far in that state. But still, though, at the same time, it's definitely going to have some form of consequences, especially when it comes to the overall vote. And, of course, Eric Adams himself, he's looking at his numbers going down. So I don't expect to see a Republican becoming the mayor of New York in the very next mayoral election in that state. But I do think a third party, probably Letitia James, the DA who's going after Donald Trump, could play a very, very big factor in what happens there. The fact of the matter is that people in the state of New York are getting tired of the immigration issue. The exact same way that people who live in Chicago are getting tired of the immigration situation. The same way people in LA are getting tired of the immigration situation. This right here is going to be very impactful this year. But it's also going to be very, very impactful long-term going forward, because the whole point, of course, was GRT. I have to say it, though. I have to say it in the acronym form because of, that's right, YouTube's community guidelines and standards. The thing is this right here, though. As I've been saying in previous videos, you have the situation where you have whites and conservatives and moderates are having more children than liberals. Well, these cities, of course, have mostly white liberals that live in them, if you actually look at the demographic. If you look at the minority communities in these cities, obviously it does have an impact as well, but when these minorities are aborting their kids at extremely high rates, the country is obviously going to be wanting to import more people. This is one of the reasons why it is I don't worry about GRT the way people actually do. Now, somebody's probably going to say, you heartless monster, you cold-hearted bastard. You're saying that the minorities aren't... Yeah, I'm saying that right there because I want minorities to wake up and see exactly what the hell is going on. I want them to see exactly what the federal government is trying to do. And I think the situation has obviously gotten too far out of control that, now people are starting to file lawsuits. However, the thing about these lawsuits are they're not going to work. So what is this exactly? This is not going to work because the lawsuit that came from LA obviously did not work. Now, here's the thing. Why in the world would you do this? Strictly politics. That's the reason why you would do this. You want people in your city to think you're actually doing something about it. You see, one of the things about Eric Adams, the thing that's really bothering a lot of people in the city of New York is that he has basically turned into a do-nothing mayor. Let's go through the mayoral list of the city of New York. Let's start with Ed Koch. So Ed Koch, a lot of people, they've said some positive and some negative things about Koch, but for the most part, Koch wasn't completely lazy compared to the mayors they've had since. David Dinkins became mayor, and next thing you know, the crime rate, which was already very high, the murder rate, which was already very high, got a lot worse. It's to the point to where, if I recall correctly, former Secret Service agent, NYPD officer, Dan Bongino, who, by the way, has the largest streaming platform on Rumble, he basically said it had got to the point to where you actually saw the person who was robbing your car right outside your apartment. He said it had gotten that bad. Criminals had gotten that brazen. Giuliani comes into office. He focuses for the most part on fixing Manhattan, and for the most part he did. Then 9/11 occurs, and of course he becomes America's mayor. After he left, then you had Michael Bloomberg, whose first term was actually pretty good. His second term was okay, but then he went full-blown to the left in his final term. Next thing you know, you start seeing stuff like taxes on big gulp drinks, stuff like that. Just crazy stuff. Then you get Bill de Blasio, who is without a doubt probably the worst mayor in American history. However, the thing about Bill de Blasio is that Bill de Blasio was actively trying to destroy the city. A lot like Michael Bloomberg was unbeknownstly destroying the city before he left office. In Eric Adams' case, he can't really do anything. He can't fix the situation. Of course, he ran on the type of policies that you've seen, and now he's got to act like, oh my God, I made a mistake. The problem is this right here. The illegals, the migrants continue to go to this city, and it continues to make the situation a lot worse. The city of New York has already cut the sanitation department. They've already cut the next 5 classes of NYPD officers. They've gotten to the point to where now they have to actually enforce BS laws like, say, owing $2.50 or $3.50 or whatever to board the train if you didn't pay your bill. That right there is what they're doing. They're doing all this to collect some form of revenue to get it back. This case, I think, is going to cost the city of New York, the state of New York, a lot more in the end, because now they're not going to have the money, or they're not going to have the finances to actually cover the basic things in the city of New York. Now, you got to ask yourself a question. What is the point of all this? Do you want to be known as a terrible mayor? Do you want to be known as the person who completely bankrupted the city? Do you want to be known as the person who actually allowed everything to happen the way it is? Remember, crime is about to pick up. It's 2024. It's an election year, and race wars are going to show up. We'll be covering that here on this channel as well. You got to ask yourself a question. What was the point of this? Well, I think the point of this entire situation is exactly what I've been saying. It's GRT. The idea was to bring people in to replace others and then turn right back around after said this right here and try to efficiently govern this and, of course, give these people some form of citizenship. But that's the thing about this citizenship. Pay attention.
Parts of the political spectrum, one of the biggest issues that we have when it comes to immigration is the fact that we have an undocumented population. Now, you can fix that by trying to build a wall, or you can fix that by trying to document people and create a path to citizenship.
Before I close this video, I need to say this, of course, in response to what you guys just heard from AOC's crazy ass. Here's the thing. The Democratic Party, the current Democratic Party, has got to get rid of her, and they got to get rid of Cori Bush, and they got to get rid of the squad as a whole, because the squad just kind of reveals their plans out loud. Of course, the Democratic Party, this right here is what they've been wanting to do the entire time. However, the thing is this right here. The current establishment, at least going back since the Bush and Obama days, I kind of link those two together because their administrations really and truly weren't that different. The whole goal was to give us slow bites of stuff like socialism, things like that there. Now, one of my subscribers pointed something out in the previous video. And of course, I did not hit on this, even though I had actually hit on this in previous videos when I did this video here about wanting a strong leader, was that they're trying to condition the country to actually want to love a dictator. They're doing that slowly but surely by simply allowing criminals to do whatever. I wanted to make that point, even though I had made that point in previous videos, but we're going to talk about that topic a lot more this week when we get to overall media manipulation. But the thing is this right here. They've been slowly but surely trying to give us small bites of socialism, small bites of this crap that you're seeing, whereas people like AOC and Cori Bush and Ilhan Omar and the other chick and then that guy Bowman, they're outright coming forward with this stuff, trying to get it out there in the mainstream. The Democratic Party is going to have to get rid of these people at some point in time if they want to be able to sustain themselves, and they know this because it's always been their plan to institute these types of laws, these types of things that you're seeing with the illegals and all that stuff there. But the mere fact that people like AOC go out there and they're on television, it actually hurts them in the long run because, of course, after a while, people begin to see that these people are absolutely insane and absolutely nutty. There's one more thing, too. We're going to be discussing that's right here in the younger voters video. A lot of voters are not wanting to vote Republican. They're just wanting to vote for Donald Trump, so therefore they will vote for him and whoever he endorses. I just figured I'd throw that out there as a side note, but we'll talk about that later on this week. This dumb, dopey person. It's these types of people who are controlling the mayor of New York, the current president of the United States. These are the people the Democratic Party bowed down to. Just give them documents, is what she said. Just give them documents. That right there is absolutely stupid, okay? You have got to get 60 votes to the United States Senate to get any form of legislation. And Republicans, of course, they control the House of Representatives. I don't see this situation getting any better. And, of course, after a while, once judges start striking out these people's ability to vote, which, of course, is also very, very much a part of it, next thing you know, you end up with a city that's just full of undocumented people who eventually start committing crimes. Military-age males, after a while, they start destroying and tearing things up. Next thing you know, race wars occur. So congratulations to Mayor Eric Adams. You and Brandon Johnson have single-handedly helped and aided in completely and utterly destroying two of America's greatest cities. And Governor Kathy Hochul as well. As I've been saying before, these people are destroying these areas. But as I said before, this lawsuit that's being filed is just nothing more than these people saying, hey, look, we're doing something about it, when in reality, they're obviously not doing anything about it at all. 2024 is going to be crazy, especially in these blue cities, and I'm going to be here to cover it all. With that right there being said, guys, let me go ahead and give you guys just a couple of very, very quick updates. The second video of the day is going to be talking about the pro wrestling model of manipulation. Of course, it is a video that I tried to do a long time ago, but of course, I had to take that video down because it was not properly done. The voiceover was much, much higher than it needed to be, but we're going to be going back to that. It's going to be a little bit shorter than what it originally was, but that video will be coming out later on this afternoon. And of course, we're also going to be talking about late night TV this week, and to go on top of that, we're also going to be talking about young voters and volunteers. And that time that Shepard Smith went completely crazy and completely overhyped a hurricane. So make sure you guys stick around for all of that. With that right there being said, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. Please hit the notifications bell. Please leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. Let's get to 10,000 subscribers this year, or maybe 5,000 to be more realistic. Let's go ahead and jack those numbers up. Also, something else too, a lot of you guys who are watching the content aren't subscribed to the channel, so make sure you guys please do that, and let's go ahead and make this platform grow. With that right there being said, I'll see you guys later. Second video will be coming out a few hours after this one.